You need to move your things to the crew quarters. James needs the master suite to heal. My father said it calmly, standing in the middle of my bedroom while wearing my silk robe and drinking my vintage scotch. On the edge of the bed, my mother was digging her fingers into a jar of my $800 face cream. She slapped a thick glob onto her cracked heel and didn't even look up. "Don't just stand there, Vanessa," she said. "Your brother is stressed. You can sleep with the staff." I walked out of the bedroom and onto the aft deck, needing air that didn't smell like betrayal. The Miami heat was heavy, but it was the sight of Leo, my 19-year-old junior deckhand, that made my blood run cold. He was standing by the gangway, wringing his cap in his hands, looking like he was waiting for an execution. "Miss Vanessa, I'm so sorry," he stammered, refusing to meet my eyes. They had IDs. They said it was a surprise anniversary visit. "Your father? He told me if I ruined the surprise, he'd have you fire me on the spot. He knew my name, Miss Vanessa. He knew about my probation period. They hadn't picked a lock. They hadn't hacked a keypad. They had bullied a teenager. That was their specialty, social engineering weaponized through pure, unadulterated entitlement. They knew exactly which pressure points to squeeze." "It's fine, Leo," I said, keeping my voice steady despite the tremor in my hands. "Go take your break. I'll handle the garbage." I turned back toward the salon. I hadn't seen my parents in 3 years. No calls, no holidays, just a clean, silent break after they drained my college fund for James's first venture. Now, they were back, and they hadn't come to reconcile. They had come to collect. Inside the main salon, the invasion was total. 4 oversized suitcases blocked the walkway. My brother, James, was already sprawled on the Italian leather sofa, scrolling through his phone. He looked up, smirked, and gestured around the room. "Not bad, V. A little sterile, but I can work with it. The Wi-Fi is decent." "Get out," I said. "All of you. Now." Brenda walked in from the master suite, wiping her hands on a towel she had pulled from my private stash. "Don't be dramatic, Vanessa. It's unbecoming. We're family. You have plenty of room. This is a place of business," I said, stepping between James and the bar. "You are trespassing on a commercial vessel. If you aren't off this boat in 5 minutes, I'm calling the Port Authority." "And tell them what?" Roger laughed, pouring himself another drink. "That you're evicting your elderly parents. After everything we did for you?" He took a step closer, invading my personal space, the smell of my scotch heavy on his breath. "We raised you. We put a roof over your head for 18 years. We sacrificed so you could have this." He waved a hand dismissively at the $1 million interior. "You think the success is yours? It's ours. We invested in you. Now, when the family needs a return on that investment, you want to hoard it all for yourself? It's selfish, Vanessa. It's ugly." There it was. The specific, twisted math of the narcissist. In their minds, my success was a communal asset, a dividend they were owed for doing the bare minimum of parenting. My hard work, my risk, my sleepless nights building this company from a single salvage tug, that was just family equity maturing. But James's failures were a tragedy. His debts were a collective burden that required a bailout. My assets were public domain. His liabilities were a family emergency. "You didn't invest in me," I said, my voice low. "You survived me, and I survived you. Now get off my boat." "We can't," James said, not looking up from his screen. "I gave up my lease. We moved out of the house this morning. We're staying here until I get back on my feet." "You, what?" "We're helping your brother," Brenda snapped. "He's in trouble, Vanessa. Real trouble. And since you're the only one sitting on a pile of gold you don't need, you're going to help him too. $148,000. Roger dropped the number like it was the weather report. He borrowed it against a crypto venture that didn't mature. The lender is private, aggressive. They aren't sending letters, Vanessa. They're sending pictures of James walking to his car." James finally looked up, his face pale and sweating. For a second, I saw the fear. It was the only honest thing in the room. "I don't have 150 grand in cash sitting in a drawer," I said. "This is a business. My capital is tied up in fuel, insurance, and maintenance. Liquidating that much operating cash today would cripple me." "Then cripple it," Brenda said. She stood up and walked over to the bar, pouring herself a glass of sparkling water. "You can rebuild. James doesn't have that luxury. If he defaults, he goes to prison or the hospital. Are you really going to value a bank balance over your brother's life? Why is this my debt?" I asked. "Why am I the insurance policy for his gambling?" Roger sighed, the sound of a patient teacher dealing with a slow student. "It's not charity, Vanessa. Think of it as retroactive repayment. You lived with us for a month after college while you looked for work. We fed you. We housed you. We supported you when you were nothing. We ran the numbers. with interest, inflation, and the opportunity cost of supporting you instead of investing. You owe the family about that much. We're just calling the note due. The heir left the room. Retroactive repayment. They had monetized my existence. Every meal, every night under their roof, every moment of parenting had been logged in a mental ledger, accruing interest. Waiting for the moment I had enough liquidity to be harvested. I need to check the accounts, I said, grabbing my tablet. I can't do this down here. I walked out before they could argue, climbing the stairs to the bridge deck. I locked the heavy watertight door behind me and leaned against it, breathing in the scent of salt and sanitized air. This wasn't new. This was a rerun. 7 years ago. My grandmother left me $10,000. It was my seed money, my escape fund. I went to the bank the day after the funeral to transfer it, only to find the account empty. The teller showed me the withdrawal slip. The signature was mine, but the loop of the letter V was shaky, exactly the way Roger wrote it when he was nervous. They had forged my name to fund James's first app idea. When I confronted them, they didn't deny it. They told me I was being selfish. James has a vision, they said. You just have a hobby. I rebuilt from zero. I scrubbed decks until my hands bled. I saved every tip, every bonus. Eating ramen while James posted photos of bottle service in Vegas on the dime of my stolen inheritance. They didn't just neglect me. They cannibalized me. They ate my start. And now they were here to eat my finish. I looked out at the Miami skyline, the glass towers reflecting the water. They thought I was checking balances. They thought I was moving money to save them. They didn't realize that the girl they robbed 7 years ago didn't exist anymore. She died the day she saw that empty bank account. The woman standing on this bridge wasn't a daughter. She was a CEO who knew exactly how to deal with hostile takeovers. I wasn't going to pay them, but I wasn't going to fight them, either. Fighting gave them leverage, it made them feel like equals. I needed to act like an investor. I unlocked the door and headed back down. I need to go to the bank, I told them. Liquidating this kind of capital triggers fraud alerts if I do it from my phone. I have to do it in person. Roger looked suspicious, swirling the ice in his glass. You're not running to the cops, are you? Because that ends badly for James. And for me, I said, grabbing my keys. I'm not going to the cops. I'm going to save your son. Just like always, I walked off the boat without looking back. But I didn't go to the bank. I drove 3 blocks to the Havana, a cigar bar that smelled of cedar and old money. Aunt Morgan was waiting in the back booth, nursing an espresso. She was my mother's sister, but in spirit, she was a different species. A retired corporate litigator who had divorced 3 husbands and kept all the houses. Let me see the demand letter, she said, extending a hand that glittered with diamonds. I handed her the crumpled paper James had thrown on the table. She scanned it, her eyes narrowing behind her reading glasses. Then she laughed a dry, sharp bark. Apex Global Holdings, she read. Vanessa, this isn't a loan shark. This is Barry Siegel. He runs a predatory lending shell out of a strip mall in Fort Lauderdale. He scares rich kids into paying double interest. Can we stall him? Better, she said. She pulled out her phone. Barry owes me a favor from the '98 merger. If I call him right now and offer him 60 cents on the dollar in cash today, he'll sell the debt note to us just to get it off his books. He knows James is a default risk. He'd rather have 60% of something than 100% of nothing. Do it, I said. Use my operating account. Buy the note. Morgan dialed. I watched her work, her voice dropping into that terrifyingly pleasant register she used before destroying a witness. 3 minutes later, she hung up. It's done, she said. The wire is pending. As of 10 minutes from now, Barry gets his money, and you become the holder of James's debt note. You own him? Good. Now help me draft the paperwork. We spent the next hour on her iPad. We didn't draft a check. We drafted a trap. By the time I walked back to the marina, the sun was setting, casting long, bloody shadows across the water. I fixed my hair in the rearview mirror, pulling a few strands loose to look frazzled. I practiced my expression, defeated, small, compliant, the dutiful daughter, who had finally been broken. I boarded the Sovereign. They were waiting in the salon like vultures on a fence. James had opened a second bottle of wine. Brenda was flipping through a yachting magazine, already picking out redecorating ideas. Well, Roger barked. Is it done? I can do it, I said, letting my shoulders slump. I moved the funds. But there's a problem with the IRS. What problem? It's 150 grand leaving a corporate account. I explained, my voice trembling just enough. I can't just gift it to you. The auditors will flag it as embezzlement. I have to book it as a formal transaction. A debt purchase. I pulled out my phone and set it on the coffee table. propping it up against a vase so the camera lens faced the sofa where they sat. My board of directors requires a compliance recording for any transfer over $10,000. I lied. I need you to acknowledge on video that this money is for James's debt, and that you are authorizing the transaction. If we don't record this, the bank freezes the wire. Roger looked at the phone, then at the bottle of wine, then at James. Greed is a powerful anesthetic. It numbs the survival instinct. He didn't see a trap. He saw a daughter finally following orders. Fine, he grunted, waving a hand. Turn the damn thing on. Let's get this over with. I pressed record. I'm sorry for earlier, I said, my voice softening into the perfect pitch of a chastised daughter. I walked over to the wet bar and popped the cork on a bottle of Dom Perignon. I was stressed. The business is a lot. I shouldn't have taken it out on you. I poured 4 glasses, the bubbles hissing in the quiet room. I handed one to Roger, one to Brenda, and slid one across the table to James. They took them, their eyes wary but greedy. Alcohol and apology, the 2 things they could never resist. I want to help. I continued, sitting down opposite them, making sure I looked smaller, less imposing. I can't let James go to prison. You're right. Family is family. Brenda exhaled. A long, dramatic sound. Finally. I knew you'd come to your senses, Vanessa. We just want what's best for everyone, but I have to do this carefully. I whispered, leaning in like a co-conspirator. I can't just write a check for 150 grand. My accountant would have a stroke, and the tax implications would kill me. I'd lose 40% to the IRS. Roger's ears perked up. He leaned forward, the scotch forgotten. So, what's the plan? We structure it as a debt purchase. I lied smoothly. My company buys the debt. It goes on my books as a distressed asset acquisition. That way, it's a tax write-off for me. I save about $40,000 in taxes, and James gets off scotangent-free. I saw the shift in Roger's eyes. He wasn't just getting money. He was getting a deal. He was helping me cheat the system. That made him feel smart. That made him feel safe. That sounds complicated, James muttered, eyeing the camera phone I had propped up. It's just paperwork, I assured him. But to make it look real for the auditors, I need a paper trail. I need you to sign an asset guarantee. It basically says that if the debt isn't paid, which it won't be, because I own it, the company has a claim on your assets. I pulled the document from my folder and laid it on the table. It was thick, dense with legal jargon. It's a dummy document, I said, waving a hand dismissively. We file it in the cabinet, and it never sees the light of day. It's just so I can show the IRS that this was a secured investment, and not a gift. It justifies the tax break. Roger picked up the pen, twirling it in his fingers. So, we sign this, and the debt is gone? Poof, I said. I wire the funds to the lender immediately. But first, for the compliance video. I gestured to the phone. I need you to state clearly that this debt belongs to James, and that you, as his guarantors, currently have no liquid assets to pay it. The auditors need to know you're insolvent, or they'll ask why you didn't pay it yourselves. Roger cleared his throat, sitting up straighter. He looked into the lens of my iPhone with the confidence of a man who thinks he's pulling off a heist. I, Roger Reynolds, acknowledge that this debt of $148,000 was incurred by my son, James Reynolds. We do not have the cash on hand to settle this obligation. Perfect, I said. And just to clear the air for the audit history, since they might look at past family transfers, we should probably mention the initial seed money. You know, Grandma's inheritance? Just to show that family funds have been commingled before. It establishes a precedent. It was a gamble, a massive one. But Roger was 3 drinks in, and he was high on the prospect of solving all his problems with a single signature. He didn't see a trap. He saw a formality. Sure. He waved a hand. We used Vanessa's inheritance years ago to fund James's first venture. It's all the same pot. Family money. My pulse pounded, but I stayed calm. He had just confessed on camera to grand larceny and fraud, smiling because he thought it would help me dodge taxes. I slid the document over. Sign here. Guarantor line. They didn't read a word, no default clause, no lien, no waiver of rights. Roger signed. Brenda and James followed. They smiled, convinced they'd cornered me. My phone buzzed. Transaction complete. Asset acquired. I stopped the recording. The money's gone, I said evenly. But I didn't pay off the debt. I bought it. You owe me now. Silence. I showed them the clause. Their recorded admission of insolvency triggered immediate default. The house was collateral. The lien was enforceable. The foreclosure was live. Roger exploded. Brenda screamed. James panicked. I pressed the silent alarm. Port authority officers arrived within seconds. "These passengers are unauthorized," I said. "This is a commercial vessel." They were escorted off the yacht, no arguments, no leverage left. 3 weeks later, the court ruled in summary judgment. The lien stood, the house sold, the debt, theft, and legal fees were covered. James got a wage garnishment order, 15% for 10 years. "You're a monster," he said. "No," I replied. "I'm a creditor." As the yacht pulled away, I deleted their numbers. Family isn't priceless. I bought my freedom, and this time, I owned it.